When Portal released in 2007, it was something never seen before. A puzzle game that was nothing unique at first glance, but the further you portaled, the more fun you had. When you first step into the Aperture Science test chambers, you are greeted with a nasty toilet and some basic portals to walk through. But little did anyone know in 2007 that this game about portal parkour would become one of the most important, culturally defining, and well known games ever made. Some people even claim it to be the greatest game of all time. But what makes Portal so perfect? The genius of Portal lies in its elegant simplicity. Your protagonist's name is Shell, and despite your silence, the game gives you a better understanding of your character's personality than most Assassin's Creed games. But obviously, this is something Valve has done more than once with the Half-Life franchise, where they have similarly been able to convey a wide range of reactions and emotions without a word being spoken. Shell has been brought in by Aperture Science as a test subject for the safety of their new invention, the Portal Gun. But the focus is less on safety and more to check if the player has any intelligence remaining. You are put through a series of tests by the very kind AI Gladys, who runs the whole operation. If that sounds like the setup for Moonfall or a bad sci-fi movie, you're partly right. But Portal is more than a gimmick. It's a physics playground where your brain quickly learns the new rules of space and momentum. The way it teaches you isn't through lengthy tutorials or manuals, but by pushing you into increasingly difficult puzzles that force you to think with the portals. This simple mechanic turns the whole world into a giant, mind-bending Rubik's Cube, where you have to experiment, fail, and trial and error your way through the game. In Portal, the mechanics are less about your tools, but more about your mind. Portal's gameplay is deceptively simple. You walk around, jump, and shoot two separate portals into compatible surfaces. That's it. No complex inventory, no crafting, no leveling up. Yet, within those bare bones lies some of the most ingenious puzzle design ever seen in gaming. From carrying insane momentum, falling through portals infinitely, time trials, and more, Portal takes physics, adds a twist, and makes it fun. The key mechanic Portal cleverly exploits is conservation of momentum, allowing you to whip yourself around at crazy speeds. The game repeatedly forces you to leap into one portal and launch out of the other at a high velocity, using gravity and velocity to reach previously impossible ledges or to trigger switches. For a game about a gun that shoots portals, it's bonkers how much you learn and engage with the physics of the game without feeling like you're being tortured. The puzzles start small: shoot a portal here, shoot one there, walk through, and done. But they quickly evolve into multi step brain finagling involving timed buttons, moving platforms, energy pellets, and those merciless sentry turrets that pepper you with bullets if you're not paying attention. The balance between challenge and satisfaction is perfect. You'll fail, yes, sometimes faceplant repeatedly into a pit of acid, but the game rewards every success not with a loot crate, but with your brain's dopamine receptors' love for success. If Portal gameplay is a shining star, the story the game brings in is Rosalina. You, Shell, are an anonymous test subject forced through the bowels of Aperture Science like a pregnant woman, but your true antagonist is Gladys, or the genetic lifeform and disk operating system, a sarcastic AI who loves cake as much as Guy Beam loves miners. Gladys is a masterclass in character writing. She guides you through the tests with the politeness of a helpful lab assistant, while also slowly devolving into madness and getting fed up with your antics. Her dry delivery is peppered with passive aggressive jabs, false encouragement, and ominous hints that nothing about Aperture Science is as it seems. Every good luck is a veiled death threat. The cake is a lie became a legendary phrase, not just because of the memes, but because it symbolizes the core of the game's false promises Gladys dangles in front of you. The story unfolds in scraps, through audio logs, environmental cues, and Gladys's increasingly unstable monologues. It's minimal, but very, very effective, and doesn't do the Halo Infinite where you can't understand what's happening if you don't pay attention. It's basic, bold, and beautiful. Portal's visual style is clean, with a doctor's office aesthetic. The test chamber is designed as a sleek white room with smooth surfaces and very muted color palettes. This minimalism isn't just aesthetic, it's functional. It clearly communicates where you can and cannot shoot portals, what's dangerous, and what's interactive, without ever feeling like the game is holding your hand. Red button means push, white walls means shoot, sludge means no go, and the other oonga boonga tactics that are all so effective. As the game progresses, these pristine chambers start to degrade. Cracks appear in walls, lights flicker, and the rusty interior becomes more exposed. It's subtle environmental storytelling at its best, showing that Aperture Science' perfect facade is becoming, well, not so perfect. And so is Gladys's control. This slow visual decay mirrors the narrative unraveling, making the world feel dynamic rather than static. Sound design also plays a huge role here. The sound is just as minimalist as the chambers themselves, and perfectly timed to the pace of the puzzles. The moment when a puzzle snaps into place is often accompanied by a delicate crescendo, rewarding you beyond just game progression. And of course, Ellen McLane's voice acting as Gladys deserves a clap on the back. She is incredibly effective at feeling like a real, slowly crumbling, yet limited, deity-like figure who is grasping at the straws of control that remain. So why does Portal still get talked about like a sacred relic, even though it's only a few hours long and over 10 years old? Because it changed the game. Before Portal, the dominant trend was first-person shooters with endless waves of enemies and explosions. Puzzle games existed but rarely broke into this center stage with innovation or flair. Valve themselves started the FPS trend with Half-Life 1, 2, and CS:GO. Portal did what many games aspire to, but few achieve it. It introduced a fresh mechanic that redefined player interaction. It told a compelling story without relying on cutscenes or lengthy dialogue, and combined humor with tension in a way that felt refreshing and not overly forced like Thunderbolts. It was also released as part of the Orange Box, a package that included Half-Life 2 as well as Team Fortress 2. Yet Portal was the standout. It proved that you don't need massive scope or sprawling open worlds to deliver a memorable experience. You need smart design, strong narrative voice, and mechanics that encourage creativity just as much as critical thinking. Portal also popularized physics-based puzzles in first-person view, inspiring a wave of similar games and influencing countless developers to experiment with environmental storytelling and gameplay that rewards thinking over shooting. Portal is nearly perfect, but no game is flawless. While the short length of the first game makes it accessible, finishing it in one sitting, the game leaves you way hungry for more. The ending is abrupt, but intentionally so, nudging you towards the sequel. Also, the silence of Shell is a smart choice to allow players to project themselves onto her, but it sometimes makes the narrative feel a little one-sided. You'll hear Gladys's sarcastic quips and have no real dialogue to respond to. Still, this reinforces that feeling of isolation and helplessness that Portal so aims to get you to feel. If there's one thing Portal nailed besides its gameplay, it's the humor. The entire game is laced with dry, deadpan sarcasm that feels both charming and sinister. Gladys's voice lines drip with fake sweetness and cunning wit, like your worst lab partner who smiles when setting you up to fall into acid. The writing is sharp, clever, and never overdone. Lines like "the next test is impossible" set the tone perfectly, making you feel like you're not just solving puzzles, but enduring a psychological experiment from a sarcastic tormentor. The subtle jokes about bureaucracy, science gone wrong, and the whole cake metaphor adds layers to the experience without ever feeling forced. The humor humanizes the otherwise cold and sterile world and makes every victory feel a little bit sweeter. Because you're not just beating puzzles, you're outsmarting a machine that wants you dead. Portal's influence stretches far beyond its size. The Portal gun is iconic, practically a mascot for smart, innovative gaming. Cosplayers, meme makers, and speedrunners alike have embraced it. The phrase, "the cake is a lie," infiltrated internet culture like a Trojan horse. On the development side, Portal inspired a new wave of puzzle platformers and physics-based games. Developers saw that players wanted more than just twitch reflexes. They craved mental challenges, storytelling through gameplay, and humor that respected their intelligence. Even today, Portal's DNA is visible in indie hits and AAA titles alike. Games like the Talos Principle, Quantum Conundrum, and even parts of the Bioshock series owe a clever nod to Portal. Its brilliance lies in how it delivers a tight, polished experience that's both approachable and challenging. It combines inventive gameplay mechanics, memorable characters, and a darkly comic story that sticks with you and does what it's meant to do in getting you to play the sequel. Nearly 2 decades later, it remains as a pillar of the gaming industry. Very few games have the legacy of Portal, and Valve itself has another game that will never get a 3. No matter how often you track Gaben's yacht to see which Game Fest he's heading to, I don't think there will ever be a Portal 3, Half-Life 3, or Left 4 Dead 3. I give this game 20 gnomes out of 1 cake.